If you're a regular around here, you know that I am a pretty big fan of two-way monitor speakers. And over the years, I've come to realize that in many cases, a good two-way monitor mated to a subwoofer can outperform a similarly equipped or priced tower loudspeaker. So I'm very excited about today's review because I get to talk to you about a loudspeaker that up until this point, I hadn't heard yet. So settle in, hit that like button, and subscribe as we review the Dali Oberon 1 two-way monitor speaker. The Oberon 1 is a small speaker. It has a 1-inch soft dome tweeter mated to a 5¼ wood fiber mid-bass driver. It has a reported frequency response of 51 Hz to 26 kHz and a sensitivity of 86 dB into 6 ohms. Now, while this review will be largely focused on the 1, we will also be taking a look at it mated to the Oberon Vokal Center along with the sub E9F for home theater use. The Vokal Center sports the same drivers as the Oberon 1, only it adds a second mid-bass driver, giving it just a little bit more bass and extending its reach down to 47 Hz. Sensitivity increases to 89.5 dB, though the impedance drops to 4 ohms. The E9F subwoofer has a 9-inch aluminum driver mated to a 170-watt Class D amplifier, which gives it a reported frequency response that reaches all the way down to 37 Hz. Now, 37 Hz is not exactly full range, but for small 2-channel systems or modest home theaters, it should fit the bill. In terms of design, one might think that once you've seen one two-way bookshelf, you've seen them all. And yet, I think the Oberon 1 distinguishes itself from the pack. It is very well made, and while this may be one of Dali's more budget-oriented offerings, it's very competently built. In fact, it gave me old-school Dynaudio vibes upon unboxing, and points to Dali for the heather gray grills as opposed to just giving us a speaker with another black sock. But I have to call attention to Dali's packaging, as it seems insufficient to ensure that their loudspeakers arrive safely. Many of our review samples arrived damaged, which caused this review to be delayed. And normally I would chalk this up to just rough handling in transit, except even some of our replacements arrived damaged. So hopefully this is just an isolated incident and we just had a run of bad luck. But if not, Dali needs to address this. Thankfully, that's pretty much it for the bad news, because in terms of sound quality, I happen to think the Oberon 1s are very, very good. Now let's get one caveat out of the way just up front. The Oberon 1s have a good amount of mid-bass or bass impact on their own, which in smaller rooms or at lower volumes will convey a sense of bass in your favorite music and or movies when flying solo. But if you want to open them up and really feel the bass, know that a subwoofer or two is going to be required. Thankfully, the E9F is a brilliant partner for these speakers, and the two pair together beautifully. But to be clear, on their own, the Oberon 1s can convey a sense of bass in small to medium rooms or at low volumes. But if you really want that full range performance, you're gonna have to use a sub. The Oberon 1's bass is largely neutral, and there is no over-accentuation of the bass here. No, it is detailed and textural, and with the right amplifier is pretty fast on the attack. Plus, it has enough low-end weight that mating it to a subwoofer is very easy, resulting in no audible gaps when done correctly. Like I said earlier, the E9F is a great subwoofer match for this speaker, and it has enough low-end weight and reflexes that provides for a measure of bass that is tight and resolute rather than boomy. But this is not a full-range subwoofer, so if you have music or movies that really like to attack those bottom-most octaves, say for instance Deepwater Horizon, the oil rig explosion scene, it is possible to clip or hear this sub bottom out. The Oberon 1's mid-range is, again, largely neutral, if not just a little bit laid back. I'm not suggesting that it's distant or vague, it's just that sound sits back of the front baffle just a few inches. But it does this without imparting any extra warmth or coloration to this sound, which is a good thing. Now, vocals sound great. They have great inflection and natural timbre, not to mention surprising scale for such a small speaker. While scale is going to be influenced by volume, the fact that these tiny two-ways can sound rather large is a bonus. I really didn't detect any editorializing, good or bad. when it came to the Oberon's mid-range, leading me to believe that if you're one that prioritizes the mid-range performance of your speaker, the One is definitely worth a look. And the same mid-range performance is found in the Vokal Center, though admittedly it does have just a little bit more weight on its own in direct comparison, but when these two speakers are paired together, their performance is largely seamless. High frequencies are delicate and airy, not to mention extended. They have solid, if not surprising, top-end sparkle, and they don't come across the least bit forward or fatiguing at high volumes. In fact, I would say that at the extremes, the Oberon One's high-frequency performance is just ever so slightly rolled off. And the reason I say this is because there's dialogue in the film Outbreak where Dustin Hoffman clips his mic. And in these instances, the Oberon One's high frequencies are very composed rather than distorted. And the same is true when that dialogue is coming through the Vokal Center. Now, the high frequency extension and nimbleness is somewhat amplifier dependent, but you need to know that the capability is there. In terms of the Oberon One's soundstage in a 2-channel setup, it's very good. This is a loudspeaker that has no problems disappearing, and it has a good center image provided you toe the speakers in just a little bit, but that center image doesn't drift as you move right or left. Now, the soundstage width and depth are both good, though I'm going to say that the bulk of the magic occurs between the speakers themselves. In a simple 3.1 home theater setup, the sound presentation is very good. Now, the center speaker is great for dialogue, and it gives actors good presence without them feeling the least bit constrained. Now, I have heard better centers with better dialogue intelligibility on their own, but these center speakers tend to have a notable rise in the high frequencies, which somewhat spoils their neutrality. So with the Vokal Center, if you want to enhance the intelligibility just a little bit, I recommend going into your receiver and maybe bumping up the treble a click or two rather than hoping for the Vokal to be, well, more forward or intelligible on its own. Sounds as they travel left to right across the separate speakers is largely seamless, resulting in a sound field that is convincing and again, surprisingly large. But if you're looking for an even bigger presentation, I have to imagine that the larger Oberon 3 monitors or the smaller Oberon 5 towers will get you there. But as it stands, the Oberon 1s are capable of room-filling sound. Dynamics are one area where the Oberon speakers are just a little bit polite. It takes a fair amount of volume and amplifier power to get these speakers to slap, and in that respect, they're not that dissimilar from ELAC. Though, if you push them, they will reward you dynamically, but there are other loudspeakers that manage to be a little bit more engaging with less effort. Which brings me to their biggest drawback. The Oberon is not the most efficient loudspeaker, so you're going to want to make sure that you have a capable receiver or amplifier in order to get the best out of this loudspeaker. For example, our Yamaha V6A was able to drive the Oberons to loud levels, but I wouldn't say that it did so easily. Now, changing things up to the Emotiva MC700 powered by XTZ amps proved to be a better fit. So while the Oberon series may be more budget-oriented, know that a larger investment in associated equipment, specifically amplifier power, may be required. Based on their size and driver complement, I compared the Oberon 1s to the Yamaha S803 and Monitor Audio Bronze 50 loudspeakers. Now, both of these speakers manage to sound as large as the Oberon 1, but they are more dynamic with less power. Admittedly, the Yamaha and Monitor speakers have a livelier sound in direct comparison to the Oberon 1, so if you're on the market for a slightly more excited or energetic top end with better mid-bass punch, check out the Yamaha or Monitor offerings. But at $599 a pair, the Oberons really do deserve to be compared to similar offerings from ELAC and Klipsch. The ELAC debut reference is the most like the Oberon 1s straight up. The Oberon 1s seem a little bit more composed up top in comparison to the ELACs, less prone to sibilance, though admittedly the ELACs do have a little bit more mid-bass weight and bass on their own. Both speakers are a little bit soft dynamically, and both take a fair amount of power in order to really open up and come alive. I prefer the size, fit, and finish of the Oberons though. Compared to the 600M, the Oberon 1 may be the more stylish, more mature option, but the 600M really is the better speaker overall. The 600M is more dynamic, it has better bass, a slightly fuller mid-range, not to mention airier highs with even greater extension. That and the 600Ms sound great when paired to modest electronics or receivers, but reward you as you move up market, whereas the Oberon ones really kind of require that higher initial investment as it relates to associated equipment. This is something that it shares with the ELAC debut reference. The Dali Oberon 1 is a very capable, great sounding loudspeaker that I think should be on everyone's must audition list if you're on the market for a speaker at the $500 to $750 a pair price point. Yes, there are some issues with their packaging. I have a few minor quibbles over their dynamics and their need for more or better power straight out of the gate, but all that aside, this is a great sounding loudspeaker that I could see a lot of people building capable 2-channel and modest home theaters around. So that's it. That is my review of the Dali Oberon 1 2-way bookshelf loudspeaker. What did you think?
I really like these. I was quite impressed when we first got them and plugged them in, especially for their diminutive size.
They are small.
They're, oh God, I think they're probably the smallest little 2-way.
Yeah, because the monitor bronze are a little bit bigger, the Yamos are bigger, so yeah, I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, they're tiny, but their sound is not.
Yeah,
and that was one of the things I remember being really impressed by. Like, wow, these really do sound much bigger than you would think by just looking at them. So I give major props for that alone. I love the look of them. I think they are a super sharp looking, set of speakers.
Yeah.
I agree with you about the grills. I mean, so many companies, I think the grills are very much an afterthought, and I give major points to Dali for paying attention to something like that and thinking about how this is going to fit within somebody's living space.
Yeah.
That said, I think that they don't look great without the grills, the design or whatever, just the look of the speaker without the grill is pretty plain, and I don't know, it doesn't really, for me anyway, it doesn't really match. It's like, well, I'm seeing this like super stylish grill. The wrap of the wood looks nice, or whatever it's made out of. I don't know if it's actual wood, but probably not.
The veneers. The veneer is nice.
It's nice, and from the photos, the walnut, whether it's the dark or the light, that looks really good. I really wish we could have gotten a pair of those. I think that would have even elevated that style factor.
Sure.
So when I'm thinking about it from just a complete package, the front of the speaker falls short for me.
Okay.
But I you put the grill on and.
Yeah, it's one of the few
Problem
speakers.
solved.
It is one of the few speakers where I say I think it actually looks better with the grills on. A lot of times grills are such an afterthought that we take them off because the drivers themselves are more visually interesting. This is the opposite case for that. I will admit, I like the tweeter design on this speaker. It's a larger surround on it, and it's gray, so I like that color contrast. But the wood fiber cone is like a reddish burnt orange hue, which on black doesn't really work for me. That said, I do want to call special attention, because I know we made a point of the packing material. The build quality of these speakers is second to none, and you only need to put it up against other speakers that would be classified like in its class to realize like your money is going to the speaker and its build. Because this will hurt your knuckles if you tap on it. It's dead inside, and so I didn't make a big enough point about that, I don't think, in the review. But for such a small compact speaker, Dali has put their money where it does appear to matter, and that is in the construction.
I don't know. If it doesn't get to you, if it doesn't show up in one piece, that to me is a concern. I'm really, really hoping it's. Maybe they just had a bad run or something, but I'm inclined to think that it's the packing. So you know what? Hopefully, maybe it's something they could, like a running change that could make, or if just know that if you get these and this happens, I'm more than sure that they will replace your
yeah,
speakers
they'll take care of you. They'll take care of you, and we've let them know these are our concerns. So this is not going to be. They were surprised by it, but they are aware. So maybe they can make running changes. Maybe they can do something about it. I don't know. Yeah, it is a shame. It is a shame that does appear to be a factor. But apart from that, once we got that all sorted out, I mean, these are great. Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, they're just a quick point of reference. We've got the Model 5 speakers from KLH in-house. Yes, the review is coming. So we've been listening to those as well, getting ready for that review. And we actually watched the new Zack Snyder, yeah, thank you. The Justice League 4-hour saga with those speakers. And spoiler alert, those are kick-ass for home theater. And so when we switched over to the Dalis for another look, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little like coming off of this great experience with the KLH. I wasn't expecting, I wasn't sure what to expect.
Right.
But I gave it its fair shot again when we were watching. We watched again some of the same scenes from that particular movie, and I was like, hey, this does sound really good. It just actually further enforces my love of the KLHs. But I'm like, for home theater and at putting the package together like you can, it's a solid performer.
Yeah, there were aspects that were very similar. It did feel a little bit more smaller, scaled down, but that could also be the size of the speakers in relation to our room, where the KLHs are obviously a much, much larger speaker. But to say that this tiny little monitor was outright like embarrassed or like, unlistenable, absolutely not.
No, not at all.
Absolutely not. The sub is necessary if you want to go toe to toe with something like the KLH. But I have to say, I love this subwoofer. I really do. I think it's cool. It's the right size for me. And I think you're going to start seeing a lot more manufacturers really diving in hard to these smaller 8-9-inch subwoofers. And for good reason. You can kind of put them a lot more places. They're a little bit more inconspicuous, and you can get more than one and have that smooth bass response around your entire room more easily without having to lose that much valuable floor space. So I know it's not a full range sub, 37 hertz, when there's other subs that'll go down to 20, but it's solid, guys. It really is. And I'm very happy with the performance. In fact, I said the other day that I actually like this sub more than the Monitor Audio sub, which is slightly larger and more powerful than this. And yet I think that the E1 or E9F, the Dali subwoofer I think it's better.
Yeah. I think that I know that you were talking a little bit more about the ELAC and the 600Ms from Klipsch being maybe the better
comparison,
apples to apples comparison, but I really do think the Monitor Audio Bronze series makes the Dali, gives the Dali a run for the money, because I want to say that the Monitor 50s, the Bronze 50s, are a little less expensive.
Yes, they are a little less expensive. If you're going for maximum impact, the Bronze 50s are going to do that. They just are. The Bronze 50s are more dynamic. They are a little bit more forward, and they are more immediately engaging at pretty much every volume. But if you're going for refinement, if you're going for kind of that vibe, I want to make sure that if you're, how do I say this? Like, if you're going for a little bit more of a serious characterization of your favorite music, the Dali is going to give you that over the Monitor. But if you're looking for that, whoa, that's fun, or that's exciting, or it grabs you type of home theater experience, the Monitor is going to be the better option. But the monitors at extremely loud volumes can get a little bit sharper on the top end, where that just was not happening with the Dali. So you kind of have to pro and con it, but yeah, the Monitor 50s are, the monitor line on a whole is just cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, if budget is your biggest factor in terms of what you end up, how you make your decision, I definitely think the monitors deserve a very serious look. Yeah. As far as the other ones that you mentioned, I think that these are better than the ELACs. I really wasn't a huge fan of those speakers. If you're talking the 600Ms to compared to the DALIs here, I'm more in line with the DALI speakers. This is
my first experience with DALI. Obviously, I've known about the brand for some time, but I've never actually been given the opportunity to listen to them. And so this is my first experience with them, largely based on your guys' recommendations. And I have to say, I want to hear more.
I do too. I really want to hear maybe a pair of their tower speakers and see how those sound. And I agree with you. I think that the Oberon ones would be a great building block for somebody's system. I think that system is going to scale really well if just guessing based on what we've heard so far. So I'm excited to see what else they put out going down the in the future, and maybe trying something something in
a higher
another
end.
Option from them.
Another higher end, and they got those new powered speakers supposedly coming, like Oberon powered speakers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's what started this whole thing. We actually wanted those first, but everything because of what's going on, stuff is delayed here or held up there. But yeah, they've got like a whole Oberon powered.
I totally forgot about that.
That I am like,
it's hard to keep it straight.
I really want to check those out. So anything else we're missing?
I think it's good. I think this was a first good experience with Dali to get introduced to their line, and they're a good speaker. I think definitely worth a look.
Yeah, I can see why a lot of you guys were asking about our thoughts on them and why you feel so strongly about them. So thank you for the recommendation. I'm very happy with them. So that is it. That is our review of the Dali Oberon 1. What did you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. And my question of the day for you is, which two-way monitor speaker do you have your eye on in 2021? Let me know down in the comments below, because you never know. Maybe it'll show up on this channel next. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you used any of the links that Kristi left for you down below, know that that is a great way that you have all continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here, and we thank you very much. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.